everybody. My name is Brandon Jones. I'm the editor-in-chief of GameTrailers.com, where you come to find trailers and you come to find talk of trailers. We like to talk of trailers. If you like trailers so much that you're willing to sit down and watch people talk about it for 40 minutes, then let's all go to the trailers. I'm joined by Mr. Kyle Bossman.
Hi, everybody.
And Ms. Elise Willems.
Hello.
Who's filling in for Mr. Daniel Bloodworth, who is taking a little vacation.
Yeah, big shoes to fill.
But you're no stranger to Let's Go. You've been on the show before.
No, yeah, I love Let's All Go to the Trailers.
And you gab about trailers. You know, you talk about trailers.
We gab about them.
Do you like talking about trailers more or watching trailers more?
I think I like hearing when there's a new trailer that debuts and our office is just uproarious about it. I really enjoy that.
Well, you guys are both funny people, and so I got some funny trailers for you today. It actually just kind of worked out that way. These are the 3 trailers I wanted to talk about, and it turns out they're all silly, funny trailers.
Well,
What?
we'll see.
We'll see. Let's get into them. This is a wacky game. It's a wacky trailer. I think this is exactly the type of trailer that you should expect from a game. It's kind of nice for a game to have the release of like not having to be good. It doesn't actually have to be a good game. You don't have to make your game look good to sell the trailer. That's actually got to be kind of a cozy position to take. And yet, at the same time, something that I fear terribly is being funny and actually like trying to pass off a joke, especially in a trailer. Because, you know, it's one thing if you're doing stand-up and you gotta read your audience, and it's another thing if like we gotta make this joke and sell the game at the same time. I like the whole attitude of this trailer. They're making their fans happy. It's something their fans asked for and they're delivering, but at the same time it doesn't seem like they're taking it seriously whatsoever. Do you think there's mixed vibes here, or do you enjoy this tone, Mr. Bossman?
This is a perfect tone. What we watched was the lazy developers, as they call themselves, just like click a few buttons and here it is. Here's the MMO. And so they're making fun of, basically almost making fun of like demands from people who demand things, and almost just like, look, we're making fun of how easy you think this is.
I love the implication that like they were swarmed by requests for a Goat Simulator MMO.
Yeah.
Like they were like batting away the requests.
And so that joke works. I think that joke totally works, where there's just like, oh, okay, here, we'll just click this on. After months, we'll just boot up our computers and click MMO mode.
I think the humor works potentially in a trailer if like I don't know where you're coming from. It's like, are you telling me to not play this game? Are you suggesting that like you didn't work hard on it, or that I shouldn't care, or that this isn't a special thing? And you keep having those questions, and the fact that the trailer doesn't come up with any answers, I think is really great.
Yeah.
And I think directly addressing your community, talking about the status of your game. I think, you know, talking about the developers, but we're seeing these characters in game, so it's clearly not them. But like they probably did do this based on feedback. It's kind of hard to rest on like what is actually happening here with this game. And it's tough to, not every game can do that. I think Goat Simulator's in a rare position to produce a trailer like this.
You know what I love is when we first see the cursor, it wiggles around a little, just like when you're waking up your monitor. It's so funny. That's so funny.
And damn it, I want to play this game.
Yeah.
It's budget, like the text that they bring up, the comments, you know, they're just kind of pasted randomly throughout the screen. But it's like, is it just random, or is that a careful science? The appearance of randomness. You know, like, would you almost place them intentionally to look like you didn't care about where you placed them? It's this interesting divide going on with this trailer.
Yeah, this is a well-directed trailer. I do not believe it's budget. I would not call it budget at all. I like that. I really, God, they make it look so. I love it every time that joke works.
There's
for
a
me.
character there named Isengard. He's a guard named Isengard. I love that.
I like the push into the software, so you
Yeah.
actually kind of like go into the screen, which again is playing up like the majesty of it, where obviously it's doesn't necessarily parallel with the quality of the graphics or the smoothness of the gameplay we're watching. 9.1.
Wow.
Whoa.
This is how you sell it. I mean, this is such a fantastic way to sell the game, and for us in the room who have quite a bit of experience with Goat Simulator, you know, we can kind of imagine what's going on here. But I mean, can you imagine if you've never heard of Goat Simulator ever and you just stumble upon this weird trailer?
You're still into it. You still want to play it, even
Yes.
if you've never heard of it before. Yeah. I get why that's.
I think these
9.1.
guys know their audience, they know the product they're making, and they know how to sell it. It's the complete package.
Yeah. I'll do 8.8. Great VO. Great escalation. Just really good. Free patch. They're just demanding. That's who your fans are right there. I love it. And I mean, that title at the end is actually strangely effective. It's like, this wasn't a cheap trailer. They did spend money on this, the poor team. But you know, people are enjoying their games, and yeah, great. I still love that little cursor. Good, great jokes. Well done.
I think it's probably, for me, it's an 8.6. It doesn't get me incredibly excited. I don't really have any emotional impact watching the Goat Simulator MMO trailer, but I appreciate that it knows what it is, knows its audience, and tonally it's perfect in terms of what they're trying to achieve.
All right, kiddos, I know you're all excited to watch a new trailer and whatnot, but there's a lot of unanswered questions about the chronological blah 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 about this game, so let's just get to it.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we've gotten a long, good glance at Tales from the Borderlands. We've seen, some people saw it at PAX, and possibly other convention gatherings. We've seen stills, we've maybe gotten little teases of it here and there. But a very funny trailer, or a trailer that tries to be funny. I guess we can talk about the beginning here, which I thought was interesting. Possibly feels tacked on. I wonder if maybe this trailer was produced and then after the fact they were like, you know, we should probably say something about the timeline. And because we're Borderlands, we have to do it in a funny way. I'm not super well versed in Borderlands lore. I'm assuming that Jack dies at the end of Borderlands 2, because we're a chunk of his face is telling us these things as opposed to the character itself. But again, we were just talking about Goat Simulator is tone. It's like, am I supposed to actually care about this character in the story or not? And I think one of the biggest flaws of this trailer is that I don't. Is that this looks interesting.
Sure.
I think they actually did a good job of showing the action in the trailer. I think that was a point that they wanted to show as much action as humanly possible to help sate all the Borderlands fans that are like, I don't know, text, I don't know. You know, but like, no, we still have explosions and big mechs and missiles and guns and all sorts of crazy characters and stuff. But the hook for me is like, what's happening here? I mean, what's the big, oh my god, this thing's gonna happen and these characters have to stop it.
The sad part is this is the most story that you will have ever seen from any Borderlands property. Because Borderlands is notoriously terrible when it comes to story and making it seem at all coherent or understandable.
But good with writing, right? I mean, the writing's funny.
Yeah, it's quirky, but I feel like it wears on you after a while. I don't know. Do you ever get that impression, Kyle?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I'm playing Borderlands, it's with other people, and we're ignoring the dialogue, unfortunately,
Yes.
which is mean to say, but you know, it's it's a lot of just like, we're funny because we don't take our world seriously, and that bums me out.
And we made this quirky character that he does this, and he has this weird attribute about him.
Yeah.
I do feel like this story is more engaging than anything we've seen in a Borderlands game. Though after I watched this trailer, I immediately forgot what the story is.
So, no, you're like assistant janitor.
Oh, that's right.
Well, they specifically says in the trailer, we're not vault hunters. And I think
Yeah.
that's clearly a message, you know, to fans. Be like, don't expect that, but still enjoy it. You know, it's still going to be exciting, but it's not going to be what you expect. I think this was a very weird choice for Telltale. This is a very bizarre franchise. And I'm nervous that this trailer is trying to make it feel like a classic Borderlands game, where what I would think if you were to approach Borderlands is like, let's do something different. Let's make a game that's not these Borderlands games, that's something else, that doesn't necessarily... I mean, they go out of their way to point out like where it takes place in the timeline, but... And granted, I haven't spent a lot of time with Borderlands, so I can't really, you know, ferret out the connections between Borderlands 1 and 2 and pre-sequel and this game. But it doesn't feel like there's a connection, loose at best, with, you know, Jack popping up at the end, like, oh, it's the ghost of Jack, the digital ghost, I guess. But again, the most importance the story can have is just related to that one character and not necessarily the world at large.
So yeah, that's worth talking about. Is like I do feel like explaining where we are in the timeline. Maybe that was a good idea. However, you have a little 2D image of Handsome Jack's mask, and it totally ruins this reveal later on in your trailer of like the digital. We already heard him speaking to us about a timeline. You gotta realize what sort of impact that'll have on your trailer as a whole. Yeah, you cleared up the timeline, but you also like not only affected what we're prepared for, but the tone. Like we're already in this silly like goofy tone coming into this, where it's harder to absorb your story because we just had that happen ahead of time. Maybe not a great idea. Like, who cares where this is in the timeline? Really, when you like, doesn't really affect how we absorb this story, knowing that it happens after Borderlands 2.
I think part of the use of the timeline is that Telltale is hoping to bring in a lot of players that wouldn't necessarily play Borderlands but would play a Telltale game, so they do feel the need to kind of explain, this is where we're at, you haven't been following Borderlands, but we're going to catch you up to speed.
You're really cool.
I do enjoy playing Borderlands, but I was really kind of underwhelmed when this game got announced, and especially coming off of the Game of Thrones Telltale, which I'm really excited for, this sort of pales in comparison. And we've kind of seen a progression with Telltale where their stories have gotten really emotionally impactful, and I don't know if we're going to get that from Tales from the Borderlands. And so far from this, I don't really know how they're going to do it.
By the way, other platforms to be announced. We see at the other end of that screen when everything's been announced. I don't know what you have left.
I give this a 7.4 because I just didn't care. I mean, there is a lot of dialogue, which I appreciate. I think this is enough material to justify having your full trailer. You know, like I didn't need more people to talk. I like the attitude, just kind of like we showed the Goat Simulator text that popped up with all the comments they made about their suggestions. I like him being like, yeah, timeline, blah, blah, blah. Like, I like the developer. I like them commenting directly to their fan base about things, maybe misconceptions that could be had about trailers. Like, it's always bad when the trailer has a totally different attitude than what fans are expecting. But I just didn't care. I don't care about the story. I don't want to. I am curious to play all of the Borderlands games that have ever been made, and I'm not intrigued to play this.
Yeah, I'll give it a 6. I think they could have done a better job picking out the dialogue, like spoken sentences. It's weird. Okay, so the first thing you see of the game, you hear Patrick Warburton, and you see him. He's doing a line that has like 30 syllables, and you see his mouth open and close 3 times. You don't know how much that bothers me. So like, don't choose that as your opening shot of the first thing we see of your game. You know, you gotta work with the footage you have. I understand, but just don't choose that shot.
That's worth 4 points of bothering you've just established.
It really does bug me. And I mean, again, this isn't the trailer's fault. You know, I love Troy Baker. He's real weird in this game. He's like a kind of vulnerable nerd at the end, where he's like telling Zero, like, I think you're really cool, you know? And it's like, doesn't work. It certainly doesn't work for laughs. It shouldn't have been the last thing you use at your trailer. And also, again, the last thing before we see your title is just like, oh, Handsome Jack's a ghost. You ruined that because of the way you introduced this trailer. So that has no impact.
Yeah, I feel like Handsome Jack should have just not been included in this at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 7. I sincerely hope that this game actually turns out really well, because I enjoy playing Borderlands not for the story, but just for the frantic mayhem, and I love Telltale. So I do hope that this game ultimately is impressive, but underwhelming trailer.
And also kind of in line with Goat Simulator, where, you know, a potentially underwhelming game sold to a very particular audience in a very particular way. Can you not like point-and-click games from that era and still like this trailer?
Absolutely.
Is this trailer just making the decision like, okay, we are, if you didn't play Maniac Mansion, you're not going to buy this game. We understand that. Or do you think this trailer goes beyond that? Do you think this trailer can get some new adopters to enjoy this style? I mean, we start with this shot that just clearly shows the love of pixels. I mean, like, we're super close. And obviously, this is doctored. Like, no one's playing the game. The mouse is moving way too smooth.
And in sync with the music as well is really important. I really like that escalation, actually.
Yeah. I mean, the text is the old classic font. I mean, this whole thing, it even says, like, let's go back in time. You know, we can talk about the game. It was a very exciting announcement, but specifically just the tone of the trailer, it also being a Kickstarter trailer. That they chose not to put themselves on screen, that they have the pixelated versions of themselves at the end. That I definitely get the vibe that this is not a game. None of this footage is the actual engine running. That they had the assets, and so they just put a couple of shots together with some crude animation, just kind of show what it's gonna look like. As long as they made it look like Maniac Mansion with the HUD and everything, kind of the old Secret of Monkey Island classic menu. We've talked about this before, Kyle, about tricky games where, like, you can't do the big AAA music, classic, awesome title kind of trailer.
Yeah.
Is this the right way to sell this trailer?
I think the first 10 seconds of this are the best thing they could have done with it. I really, really enjoy that. The way it's the music, it's like, I don't know, it's like cool music. It's like Reservoir Dogs you're listening to. So I really like that coming in. Oh my gosh. We'll talk about the ending later, I guess. But I think the first 10 seconds are great, and it makes you excited. You see a silly item used with corpse. You know, that's
Yeah.
really cool. That's a great way to start it. I think it loses a lot of momentum. Don't tell us your game is funny. Goat Simulator did not at one point say, this is a funny game. It showed us being a funny game. This is like, you'll be amazed by our wit. Like, okay, just show us your wit instead of just telling us. There's a lot of that. And I mean, let's talk about these two guys at the end. this would have been a way better, even Kickstarter trailer at the end without them. I realize it's a good thing at the end of a Kickstarter trailer to show yourselves, show your humans, but instead they try to like pass off jokes where they're like, "You're making us cry. We hate you now. We don't want your money." Like, don't do that. I realize you think that's funny. I realize that's ironic on a Kickstarter to say we don't want your money anymore, but don't do that. Nobody's laughing at that point. I'm sure somebody is, but it's also like weird and uncomfortable. Maybe the type of humor of like what you're going for in your game, but like at that point, show your humans and then say you would really appreciate everybody's money.
So I wasn't completely put off by them at the end. I thought it dragged on a little bit, and they could have just made it a little bit more concise as to, we are the Maniac Mansion guys.
Right.
Like for that reason, please buy our game.
Yeah.
We hope that you'll like it. The progression of just like the static, emotionless shots in this trailer of all the characters is fantastic. Like you think something's gonna happen here, nothing happens. Nothing happens in any of these shots. This is my favorite here, when the RV door just opens and the eyes glow. I thought that was perfect.
Do you think they're showing enough of the game? If I didn't know these gentlemen, if I had never played any game that they have ever made, do you think there's enough here? Like I said, it's not quote unquote gameplay. Do you think they're showing enough here for you to tell that, oh, they're competent, there is a game here? If they were to have more money, this would become something.
If you didn't know it was Maniac Mansion.
Or is it, because like a lot of times people will make a game and they literally just have like 2D art. It's like nothing's moving or anything. It's literally just like, here's pictures of what we want to do. And like I always get real nervous when I see that stuff. Like I don't know. You haven't built any environments yet, as opposed to something where it's like, this is our bread and butter, man. We do this all the time. It's just something, we're not it ain't broke. We're not fixing it. We're just making another game, that's similar to stuff that you like.
I think I would maybe need a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't think that I could just watch the first like 10 to 20 seconds of this and be into it. I think, oh, this is maybe kind of a quirky trailer, but that might be the extent of it. Kyle, are you sold on this game?
No. Here's the thing. Those first 10 seconds again, we get a vibe. We get a true vibe of what this game is, and we lose the vibe the more we see of it. You see that like convenience store that's just got like a bunch of random, like, oh yeah, we got a little talking plant in here. That's like, you ruined your vibe there. You go to that bank and then there's just like, oh, look at all these goofy people in the line. It's like, yeah, they're all goofy weirdos with not a like true aesthetic. I don't know. The art isn't great.
Maybe like a little more story. Like, am I the only person who gets like a Twin Peaks X-Files vibe from
No
this?
way.
A little bit?
Like
I mean, we
this-
start
right
with
here.
with
This
these
is great.
investigators, basically. Like,
Yeah, I get it a little
Love
bit, especially
this.
the fact that it's the like, is it Thimbleweed? Is the name
Yeah.
of the town?
Thimbleweed
Yeah,
Park.
it's such a Twin Peaks-ish kind of name.
So maybe like a little more story, kind of knowing like it's cool to see this weird shadow guy in the trailer, but it'd be kind of nice to know in the trailer.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of nice to know like who is the bad guy and kind of what's the story. At least what's the tone? Like, is it looks, there's a corpse, so it looks spooky like Maniac Mansion. If you can even call that spooky. I'm finding this difficult to score. Because, again, it's like how much effort do you put in, like Goat Simulator? Like, they didn't put in a ton of effort. It looks, they did, but it doesn't look like they did. And so, like, it does take effort to put all this stuff together and make it animate, but it kind of looks like they didn't put in effort.
But you're a big fan of Maniac Mansion, right? Or am I wrong?
I'm a big fan of Secret of Monkey Island.
Oh, okay.
I went absolutely bonkers for all of those games. And I think that was, like, really the beginning of humor in video games and, like, really, really clever writing that, like, was flying right over kids' heads, and you didn't see a lot of that.
So watching this, do you get that nostalgic
I do,
like, throwback vibe?
but I would like to see maybe just like a little bit more. If they're asking for over $300,000, it'd be nice to see more than like 4 screenshots with a little bit of animation. And like what you were saying at the end, it kind of brings it down. But it is so funny. I mean, it's not like funny, but it is. I don't know. It's just quirky. I like the vibe.
Lighthearted.
Boy, I'm just flying. I'm just having numbers just flashing in front of my face. I'll just pick one. F7. F7.
Before we started, and I was like, Brandon, I'm picking out my scores right now. He was acting all cool and confident. He's just like, I just throw out my scores, man. I just feel it. I feel it in my heart.
I wasn't confident. I was
Yeah.
stating that that's how I do it because I like to hear what you have to say, and I like to just average your scores and your opinions instead of coming up with my own.
So I think the way this trailer starts gives it a good score. And then it kind of, it loses it, but you still started off so well. I'll do 6.8. The lost its good score. You know what? It makes me angry. This trailer why is there a dumb clown? Like, don't put a stupid clown. Don't use that shot of a clown waiting in line. Oh, it's dumb face. Like, I don't want to play that game. Basically, I was so excited at this point. And maybe I'm giving it a worse score because of the disappointment of how well we started and then how quickly that vibe dropped off. You know, you see that weird sign of Thimbleweed. I mean, I guess that's they're showing their title, but they use it twice. The second time, a big black dot appears on it, which is supposed to be a gun hole. But like, hey,
How are we supposed to tell?
let us see through it. Don't just put a black dot on your sign. Why did somebody shoot at this? Okay, you know what? Just that's it. 6.8.
6.8. Whoa. I liked it better than Tales from the Borderlands. I guess 7.3. Sure.
And it's tough because the project sounds like fun.
Yeah.
The announcement is cool.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people are excited about this, and you should be excited about it. We're specifically talking about the piece of media that we've now watched like 8 times. Are we done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a wrap on part 1 of Let's All Go to the Trailers. Elise, can you join us for part 2?
Yeah,
Are you busy?
No,
do you have to run anywhere? Because we do 2 parts now. We have part 1 where we talk about the 3 most relevant, conversation-worthy trailers of the week. In part 2, which you can hunt down on the front page or in the link below if you're on GameTrailers.com, we will watch a trailer that we've never seen before. We're watching the What Makes Tome Unique trailer for Tome. And I'm very curious to see if they can prove that Tome is unique. We're also going to talk about 5 other trailers that I thought were super groovy and worth talking about this week, whether they are for good or bad reasons. And that's part 1 of our show. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out part 2, or we'll see you next week.